Welcome to our third episode of 10 Minutes with Tara on Thursdays at 10, where we dive into one of the devotionals that we have written with one of our t-shirts. I'm just watching the live here to see if we have any activity and make sure it's really real because I'm still not sure. I'm still scarred from that Tuesday that I knew I should have gone through the other page and it never recorded anything, and I had to redo the whole thing a couple days later. So if you're there and you can give me a little hello or a little you're here, this is episode 3 of 10 Minutes with Tara that we do on Thursdays at 10 a.m. Tuesdays with Tara is our fun from the store, but Thursdays is our 10 minutes that we dive into our devotional and all the devotionals that we've written for each t-shirt from the T-shirt of the Month Club, how it started, where it started, so all the background on that and all the fun on that. So I found the shirt that I actually made that went along with May of last year, the month of May, and that was Love Always Wins. Let me turn for you. Jude 122, and the verse itself just says, "Have mercy on those who doubt," and I switched it over to "Love Always Wins." And I don't know what May of 2020 was like for you guys. That was just about 15 months ago, but we were still full shutdown from the pandemic, and life was really uncertain, and it had been like, okay, 2 weeks. Good morning, Mackenzie. So good to see you. Super live today, really live. Last May, not the one we just had, but 15 months ago, May was really scary in so many ways because we had shut down and it was supposed to be for 2 weeks. Then it was 2 months and we were kind of losing it, and things were still shutting down. Nothing was still open. We still weren't really able to get together, and with the 10-person limit at one point, there were 9 people living in my home during that time. So our family alone was about to get the boot with like staying together and staying home without breaking government guidelines. It was really a stressful, frustrating time. So for me, there was just this list of things that I could not do. I saw all the things I could not do. And my teenagers, you want to bet how crazy they were going. Like, this was the time in their life that they were designed to start learning, finding their friends, going out, coming home, going out, learning more, coming home. And now they're not even allowed. It wasn't our rules. It wasn't our overprotective whatever. It was the government literally saying, no going out, no groups, no church. We had pretty much switched to online church for weeks and weeks at that time. Thank God our media team was just amazing and really dug in and did all the things to help us, but it was just awful. So for me, I can only compare it to one other time when my kids were really little and I was home with them. There were 4 of them under the age of 10. And I was juggling a couple days at work and then basically being a full-time stay-at-home mom. And so that looked different depending on babies. It looked different depending on our summer schedule, where things looked in life. But most of all, it was just hard. It was just crazy. It was upside down. And there were so many things in life that I felt like I could not do. And I was getting bitter. I was getting frustrated. I was getting stressed out because, of course, I love my kids. I love staying home with them. I love catching them in their snuggle pajamas, and I love being there for the little victories and playing Legos and blocks with them. But my brain was doing this whole other thing. Like, I had to get out. I wanted to get out and see other things, do other things. I wanted to help what was going on at the shop. I wanted a regular schedule. I just needed a break sometimes. We had no family. So it was like, find a babysitter or you're out of luck. And that was really stressful, and it was really hard, and I started complaining to the Lord. And I would do this little thing in my head and have this little conversation with the Lord and just be like, there are so many things I can't do. Like, I can't do this, I can't do that, well, I can't do this. And it turned into more focusing on what I couldn't do. And one day I just heard the Lord answer me back and said, well, write down what you can do. And I'm like, what in the world? Like, okay, what can I do? And it just so happened that I was reading through the fruits of the Spirit, and I felt to write down every fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, long-suffering, self-control, kindness, goodness, gentleness. I'm horribly paraphrasing right now because I was not prepared to share this part, but it's in there. Just Google fruits of the Spirit. So I took a blank piece of paper and I wrote those things down in a marker and put it on the fridge, because it was my physical reminder that in the habit of looking at what I couldn't do, there were so many things that I could do if I would just focus on that. And that was the work that was needing to go on in my heart at the time. And it turned a super frustrating situation completely around for me, because when you put something on a fridge, like, you see it all the time. And that was the main room in our house, and that's where a lot of the stuff happened. That's where a lot of the cooking happened. That's where the kids were playing, because they wouldn't leave me. Even though I have a whole basement full of toys, they won't leave the main room. They'll bring the toys up there just to be with me. And so, spending all that time up there, I would turn and look at the refrigerator, and there would be the list of the things that I could do. And it got me through that season. It wasn't perfect. It didn't quite change anything. It changed my heart. It changed my thinking. It didn't change anything else around me. So fast forward so many more years later, and we're in a similar situation. And here we have the world shut down. Like, can't do this, can't do that, can't go here, can't go there, have to do it this way, have to do it that way. All these restrictions. And it's a whole nother level, because staying home with your kids because they're little and they need you is a lot different than stay home with your family, because we were doing schooling for 6 kids. All of a sudden, I had to just drop everything, my job, like I got this, but I got kids, and 6 different, and one was in the public school system, and the other 4 were home, and one was college online. It was insanity, and we couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't do anything. And I just remember hearing that still small voice. Well, what can you do? And instantly in my mind, I went back to being 20-something years old again, and that list on the refrigerator of all the fruits of the Spirit, well, the things that I can do. And I thought, okay, there's a lot of things we cannot do, but let me look at what I can. And that's where Love Always Wins came from. And if that already wasn't enough stress, if you can go back there in your mind, then let's remember what happened with George Floyd. And that was in May of last year. And that's before I created this shirt. It's like God just knew what we needed to know in that month. And the whole world watched, when a man was literally killed on the street. And it was awful. And our church held a prayer night outdoors. It was so beautiful that night. We just messaged and called and made announcements on Facebook and Instagram that anybody who wanted to come out for a prayer service, we were going to pray for our nation. And little did I know where this shirt had come from, and at that time, this was only our 2nd month at the time. And these are still the handmade ones. I thought it was so cool. Can you tell this is pink lettering? So we were still doing black shirts, but I did the pink lettering, right? And we still had, I think, less than 20, maybe 24 people. I don't even think it was that many of the handmade shirts, and people that had joined the club by month 2. And so many of us turned out that night outside in that back church parking lot. We could see the sunset. We hadn't seen each other in a while, and we're trying to keep our distance, and we're trying to stay away and follow all the rules and blah, blah, blah. And we are praying for our nation. And the riots had already started by the time we got together praying. And I remember Pastor Phil literally crying while he was praying. And I looked around at our families. The kids were playing. Some people brought their dogs with them, had just walked if they lived down the street. And it was the most beautiful day for the saddest reason that there was so much that needed to happen in our country. And I looked around, and about every so many people, I saw somebody wearing the t-shirt that said, "Love always wins." And they were my friends. They were our church family. They were people that were showing up to support. And, you know, even something about the shirt design when I made it, we always say love never fails. And I remember while I was sketching it, and, you know, that it's legit. Love never fails. But something in me while I was designing that shirt wanted to put a positive spin on it. I didn't want a negative. I didn't want a never. I didn't want a nothing. I wanted love always wins. So I want to read to you what I wrote. This would have been 15 months ago for the May 2020 shirt. And again, the verse is Jude 1:22. And all it says is, "Have mercy on those who doubt." I am sure we have all come to places in our lives where we know that something has got to change, but we may not know exactly what. It can be easy to blame others, point our fingers at obvious, tangible things, or even justify our behavior in it all. The trouble with these responses is that none of them fix the problem. As a matter of fact, we usually open the door wide to anxiety, discouragement, and even depression, telling ourselves the problem can never be fixed until someone else does their job. And when someone else changes, you're never going to be happy. Therefore, we make ourselves a prisoner of misery. Thank God that Jude reminds us that there is a solution that always works when we find ourselves in those situations. Extend mercy. Some versions even use the word compassion, but the premise is the same either way. Love always wins. There is always, always one thing that will never fail. We only need to ask the Lord to fill us up more with His love so that we can pour it back out, even to those we may think are undeserving or unfitting. Our job is just to love. And I don't know if any of you kind of grew up with that mentality, you know, like you help people, and then there's that person that you're either too tired or too busy, or you're not listening to that still small voice, and you're like, well, you know, they kind of got themselves into that situation, or they didn't really listen to me when I said X, Y, and Z, or I know they know better, and blah, 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 blah. And it really takes the changing love of God to challenge yourself to push past that and be like, well, what's my job? And I'm not talking about enabling, and I'm not talking about excusing wrong behavior, but what does love look like in that situation? It doesn't look like condemnation. It doesn't look like offense. It doesn't look like I told you so. Everybody has a part to play. And the only way you can find that part out, what your job is to listen to that still small voice. What is God telling you to do in that situation? And when the Bible says, have mercy on those who doubt, it couldn't be any more clear. It's the people that don't believe that need more help. It's the people that are just starting out on their walk that need more compassion. It's the people that don't know any better that really need what we're giving. And that's where the difference is. That's where Jesus comes in. That's when love can do the miracle action. And that was the challenge for us that day that we stood around that parking lot and we prayed and cried out to God for our nation. And we prayed for George Floyd's mom. I mean, I just cannot imagine that you watch your son on national television be killed and in the most inhumane way. And it just showed so much, you know, windows of places where God had not showed up yet, and we were asking Him to show up. So my prayer even then was, Father, help me to see that you are the solution to all the problems in this world, and that I only need to do my job in extending the love and grace that you so freely gave me. Thank you for reaching me with your limitless love and mercy, and I ask you to help me do the same. I thank you for making the gospel so simple. Help me to break the anxiety, discouragement, and depression in my life by filling up on your love and mercy to pour out to those you gave your very life for. Thank you that your love always wins. And the challenge that month was to search your heart to see the places in your life that you are short on mercy and quick to judge. I wrote, I will work on showing understanding and compassion and keep returning to the Lord in prayer for the times and situations that I am struggling to overcome, seeing a person as man sees them and not as God sees them. How hard is that? I will commit to praying for that person until I both feel my own breakthrough in my heart and peace for them as I pray. You know, so often when my kids might tell me they're struggling with somebody or situation, and I'll listen and I'll offer advice and I'll listen and I'll be quiet, and then finally I'll say, have you spent as much time praying for them as you have talking about the situation? And that usually gets them really quiet and sends them back to the place where they realize, like, it's prayer that changes things. It's God that changes things. How many times have you ever seen an impossible situation and you're like, okay, the only way through is to just fast and pray through it, and you purpose in your heart you're going to do that thing forever, a day, 2 days, 3 days, whatever you decide, and then you come out on the other side and your situation didn't change at all, but you changed. Your heart changed, your perspective changed. And that's the difference. Like, that's what we're asking God to do, is do the work. Of course, we might start out by praying, God, fix the situation. God, change that person. God, do the thing for in that person's life. But the truth is, if God is going to answer our prayers in the way that He always does, it's going to be that we change, our mind change, our heart changes, and our perspective changes toward that person. And so I just want to challenge you today, if that's where you're at and you're facing those hard situations, hey, write down the fruits of the Spirit and put those on the kitchen, the fridge in the kitchen, and look at what you can do. I mean, summer is so hard. I don't know if you love summer, good for you. I struggle so bad with summer because all these kids are home, and our regular schedule is disrupted, and I am the constant nanny, the constant cook, the constant referee, the entertainment committee, and it's a lot. It's really hard, and so I feel stuck a lot of the times during summer. And so if that's you and that's where you're at, I do encourage you, pray and fast through it, because you want to know what's going to change. Your heart is going to change, your perspective, your mind. You know, crack open that Bible. It is the hardest thing to just open that book. Once you can get it open, it's like the sky is the limit, and anything can happen. But break it open. Crack it open. Just pick one verse, pick one passage, pick one chapter, whatever it takes to get you to focus on that and change. That's what will change. Your situation might not change, and it will eventually, but you know, when you're stuck in a season and it just stinks. But the bottom line would be, you'll watch it change, whether that means you do and your perspective does, but you can remember that love is always the answer. And that still small voice will help you to know when to go left, when to go right, when to talk, when to be quiet, when to do something, when to stay home, when to write it, and when to be quiet. I mean, there's so many ways that still small voice guides us. But I just want to encourage you today, if that's how you feel and that's where you're at, just remember that love always wins. So I think that's all my thoughts today for 10 minutes with Tara. But I'm so grateful for you all. Next week, I believe, is from Luke. I Do Hard Things. I gotta check on that, but that's a good one too. So I will see you first on Tuesday. For Tuesdays with Tara, we're going to go over some fun things in the store, and then Thursday next week at 10 a.m. I'll see you there for 10 minutes with Tara. Thank you guys. Have a great day.